How to stop worrying about things you can't control. Stoic mindset. You wake up and before your feet even touch the ground, your mind is already racing. What if something goes wrong today? What if I fail? What if they judge me? The weight of things you cannot control is already sitting on your chest. And you haven't even started your day. Pause. Look at your life for a moment. How much of your suffering comes not from reality, but from your imagination? You worry about the future. You replay the past. You try to control people, outcomes, situations, but the harder you try, the more anxious you become. It feels like you're holding the world together, but the truth is, you were never meant to. There is an ancient idea, simple, but powerful enough to free your mind forever. It comes from Stoicism, and it begins with one question. What is actually under your control? Because most people get this completely wrong. They worry about what people think of them, what might happen tomorrow, whether they will succeed or fail, whether life will go according to plan. But here's the truth. You control almost none of that. And that's exactly why you suffer. Imagine trying to control the weather. You wake up angry because it's raining. You shout at the sky. You stress over the clouds. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what you do every day, just in a different form. You try to control other people's opinions, the outcome of situations, the timing of success, the behavior of the world. And when it doesn't go your way, you break. But what if you could finally let go? What if you could wake up each day without that pressure? What if nothing external had the power to disturb your peace? This is the Stoic mindset. Not cold, not emotionless, but free. A Stoic does not try to control the world. A Stoic masters something far more powerful, themselves. And once you understand this, everything changes. You were not born worrying like this. As a child, you didn't overthink every outcome. You didn't lose sleep over things beyond your reach. So what happened? Somewhere along the way, you were taught that you must control everything. Control your future. Control how people see you. Control success. Control failure. And when life didn't follow your script, you started to feel anxious. Because deep down, you believed something was wrong. But nothing is wrong. You were just chasing control, where none exists. Worry is not a sign that you care. It's a sign that you're trying to control what cannot be controlled. Think about it. Does worrying change the future? Does it solve the problem? Or does it simply drain your energy and rob you of the present moment? The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago, and they built their entire philosophy around one idea. Peace comes from clarity, not control. There are only two things in this world: things you can control, things you cannot control. That's it, no middle ground. Things you control: your thoughts, your actions, your decisions, your attitude. Things you do not control: other people, the past, the future, outcomes, opinions, luck. Now here's the problem. Most people focus 90% of their energy on the second category, and only 10% on what actually matters. That's why they feel powerless. That's why they feel anxious. That's why they feel stuck. But the moment you reverse this, your life begins to change. So how do you actually let go? How do you stop your mind from constantly chasing control? How do you train yourself to stay calm? Even when life is uncertain, you think you're worried about the future. But you're not. You're worried about a story your mind keeps telling you. A story where things go wrong. A story where you fail. A story where you lose control. And the strange thing is, none of it has happened. Yet your body reacts as if it already has. Your heart beats faster, your chest tightens, your thoughts spiral, and suddenly, an imaginary problem becomes a real suffering. This is the trap. The mind does not know the difference between reality and the pictures it creates. So when you imagine the worst, you live it, but here's the deeper truth. Worry is not about the future. Worry is about control. You are trying to predict, to prepare, to dominate what comes next. Because somewhere deep inside you, there is a belief, if I can just think about it enough, I can stop it from happening. But has that ever worked? Think carefully. How many times have you worried? Only for things to turn out completely different. How many nights have you lost sleep over problems that never came? And even when something did go wrong, did worry actually help you? Or did it just make you suffer twice? Once in your mind, and once in reality. This is why the Stoics saw worry for what it truly is: a misuse of imagination. Your mind is powerful. It can create solutions. It can build visions. It can guide your life. But when left undisciplined, it becomes your greatest enemy. Instead of serving you, it controls you. And the more you listen to it without question, the louder it becomes. Something might go wrong. What if they reject you? You're not ready. You're going to fail. These thoughts feel real. They feel urgent. They feel important. But they are not commands. They are not truths. They are just thoughts. And here is where your power begins. The moment you realize, you do not have to believe everything you think. Let that sink in. Your thoughts are not always telling the truth. Your mind is not always your ally. And your fears are often just illusions dressed as warnings. But because you've listened to them for so long, you trust them. You obey them. You let them shape your decisions. And slowly, without even noticing, you build a life around avoiding things that were never real to begin with. You avoid risks. You avoid opportunities. You avoid growth. All because of imagined outcomes. This is how worry steals your life. Not all at once, but piece by piece. A moment of hesitation here. A missed opportunity there. A decision you didn't take. A dream you didn't pursue. And over time, you look back and wonder, what happened? But nothing happened. You were just distracted by fear. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that if you want peace, you must first understand your mind. Not control the world, not predict the future, not eliminate uncertainty, but master your perception, because it is not events that disturb you, it is your judgment about them. Two people can face the same situation. One panics, the other remains calm. Why? Because the event is not the problem. The interpretation is, and this changes everything. It means that your peace has never depended on the outside world. It has always depended on how you see it. Which leads to a powerful realization. You don't need to control everything. You only need to control how you respond. But right now, your mind is reacting automatically. It sees uncertainty and immediately jumps to fear. This is conditioning, a habit built over time. And like any habit, it can be broken. But first, you must see it clearly. Notice your thoughts, not to fight them, not to suppress them, but simply to observe. Watch how quickly your mind creates problems. Watch how easily it assumes the worst. Watch how often it tries to control what it cannot. And instead of getting lost in it, take a step back. Ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is no, then why are you giving it your energy? Why are you letting it disturb your peace? This question alone has the power to change your life. Because every moment of worry is a moment of misplaced focus. You are investing your energy into something that cannot give you anything in return. And energy is your most valuable resource. Once it's gone, you don't get it back. So every time you worry, you are paying a price. A price in peace, a price in clarity, a price in presence. And for what? For something you cannot change. This is why the Stoics were ruthless with their attention. They did not waste time on things outside their control. They did not argue with reality. They did not resist what already is. Instead, they accepted it fully, calmly, without complaint, not because they were weak, but because they were wise. They understood something most people never do. Resistance creates suffering. Acceptance creates freedom. But acceptance does not mean giving up. It does not mean you stop trying. It does not mean you become passive. But if you've already let go, there's nothing left to lose. Think about that. If you no longer need things to go your way, what can disturb you? If you no longer depend on outcomes, what can shake you? If you accept uncertainty, what can scare you? This is freedom, not the freedom to control life, but the freedom from needing to, and this is where your strength begins. Because now, instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, you redirect your focus inward, to the only place where control is real: your mind, your actions, your response. This is the shift, the moment where everything changes. You stop asking, how do I control what happens? And you start asking, how do I respond to what happens? That question is power. Because now, no matter what life throws at you, you are not helpless. You may not control the storm, but you control how you stand in it, and that is unshakable. Now you see it clearly. Control was never yours. Certainty was never guaranteed. And trying to force it only created suffering. But now comes the most important step of all. If you cannot control the outside world, then what exactly can you control? Where should your focus go? Where should your energy be invested? What is truly yours, and what is not? This is the core of Stoic philosophy, the idea that separates the anxious from the peaceful. It's called the dichotomy of control, and once you understand it, you will never see your problems the same way again. Everything you've felt so far, the anxiety, the pressure, the endless overthinking, it all comes down to one mistake. You've been focusing your energy on the wrong things. The Stoics had a simple way to fix this. Not complicated, not theoretical, not abstract, practical, brutally honest, and life-changing. It's called the dichotomy of control, and it begins with a single line. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That's it. At first, it sounds too simple, almost obvious. But if it's so obvious, why do you still worry? Why do you still feel anxious? Why do you still lose peace over things you cannot change? Because knowing this idea is not the same as living it. So let's break it down. Slowly, clearly, there are only two categories in life. 1. Things you can control. These are yours, fully, completely, without exception. Your thoughts, your choices, Your actions, your attitude, your effort, your values. This is your domain. This is where your power lives. 2. Things you cannot control. These are not yours. Never were, never will be other people's opinions, other people's actions, the past, the future, outcomes, luck, timing, external events. This is where most of your stress comes from. Now here's the problem. You've been treating category 2 as if it belongs to category 1. You try to control what people think of you. You try to control how things turn out. You try to control the future. And when it doesn't work, you feel frustrated, anxious, powerless, not because life is unfair, but because your focus is misplaced. Imagine this. You are holding 2 buckets. One bucket contains everything you can control. The other contains everything you cannot. Now imagine pouring all your energy into the second bucket, trying to fill it, trying to manage it, trying to fix it, but no matter how much you pour, it never fills. Because it has no bottom. That's what worry is, pouring your energy into a bottomless bucket. And then wondering why you feel empty. But the moment you shift your focus to the first bucket, everything changes, because this one can actually be filled. Every time you choose discipline, it fills. Every time you control your reaction, it fills. Every time you act with clarity, it fills. And slowly, you start to feel something different. Not anxiety, not pressure, but stability, because now, your peace is no longer dependent on what happens. It's dependent on how you respond. And that is always within your control. Let's make this real. Someone criticizes you. Your old mindset says, they shouldn't think that about me. I need to change their opinion. This is bad. So you worry. You replay it, you stress over it, but the Stoic mindset asks, is their opinion under my control? No. So why am I giving it my peace? And just like that, you let it go, not because it doesn't matter, but because it's not yours to control. Another example. You work hard on something, a project, a goal, a dream, and it fails. Your mind says, this shouldn't have happened. I needed this to work. This is terrible. And again, you suffer. But the Stoic asks, was the outcome fully in my control? No. What was in my control? Your effort, your preparation, your persistence. So instead of focusing on the result, you measure yourself by your actions. And suddenly, failure loses its power over you. Because your value is no longer tied to outcomes. It's tied to who you are. This is the shift. You stop chasing results and start mastering effort. You stop fearing outcomes and start owning actions. You stop trying to control life and start controlling yourself. And in doing so, you become unshakable. Because life can take many things from you. It can change your plans. It can challenge your path. It can throw obstacles in your way. But it cannot take your ability to choose how you respond. That is yours, always. And once you truly understand this, worry begins to fade. Not instantly, not magically, but steadily, because every time your mind starts to spiral, you bring it back. Is this under my control? If yes, you act. If no, you let go again, and again, and again, until it becomes natural, until your mind stops chasing what it cannot control, and starts mastering what it can. This is discipline. This is clarity. This is freedom. Now you understand the principle. You see the line between control and no control. You know where your energy should go. But there's a hidden trap. that still keeps people stuck, even when they understand this idea, because there's one thing people struggle the most to let go of. Not money, not success, not outcomes, but something deeper: the need for validation, the need to be accepted, the need to be liked, the need to be approved by others. And as long as that need controls you, you will never be free. There is something controlling your life, something subtle, something quiet, something you may not even realize is there. It doesn't shout, it doesn't force you, but it influences almost everything you do: the way you speak, the way you act, the decisions you make, the risks you avoid. It is the need to be accepted, to be liked, to be approved, to be seen in a certain way. And at first, it feels harmless. Of course you want people to like you. Of course you care what others think. That's normal, human. But there's a line most people cross without noticing, where it stops being a preference and becomes a dependency, where your peace depends on other people's opinions. And once that happens, you are no longer in control of your life. Because now, your emotions are in someone else's hands. If they approve of you, you feel good. If they criticize you, you feel bad. If they ignore you, you feel invisible. You rise and fall, based on something you cannot control. And that is the trap. Because no matter how hard you try, you cannot control how people see you. You can be kind, and still be misunderstood. You can be honest, and still be judged. You can do everything right, and still be rejected. So if your peace depends on approval, your peace will always be unstable. The Stoics saw this clearly. They understood that the need for validation is one of the greatest sources of suffering, because it places your worth in the hands of others. And people are unpredictable. They have their own fears, their own biases, their own insecurities. So their opinions are not truth. They are reflections of their own perspective. Yet you treat them as if they define you. You adjust your behavior to avoid judgment. You hide parts of yourself to fit in. You stay silent when you should speak, all to protect an image that was never truly yours. This is the invisible prison. Not bars you can see, but limitations you feel. A life shaped not by who you are, but by how you want to be perceived. And slowly, you lose yourself. Because every time you choose approval over truth, you move further away from who you really are. But here's the reality: no matter what you do, you will be judged. Let that settle. If you speak, people will judge you. If you stay silent, people will judge you. If you succeed, people will judge you. If you fail, people will judge you. There is no escape. So the question is not, how do I avoid judgment? The question is, why am I trying to? Why are you giving so much power to something you cannot control? Why are you sacrificing your peace for opinions that change constantly? Think about it. Someone can admire you today and criticize you tomorrow. Did you change, or did their perception change? This is why chasing validation is like chasing the wind. It shifts, it moves, it never stays still. And yet, you build your life around it. The Stoic mindset is different. A Stoic does not seek to be liked. A Stoic seeks to be true. True to their values, true to their principles, true to their character, because those things are within their control. Other people's opinions are not. So instead of asking, do they approve of me? The Stoic asks, am I acting with integrity? And that question changes everything. Because now, your standard is internal, not external. You don't need applause to feel confident. You don't need approval to feel worthy. You don't need validation to feel complete. Because your sense of self comes from within, and that is unbreakable. Imagine living like that. Imagine speaking your truth without fear. Imagine making decisions without needing permission. Imagine living your life without constantly looking over your shoulder. That is freedom. Not freedom from people, but freedom from needing them to validate you. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing approval is the moment you become truly confident. Because confidence is not, they like me. Confidence is, I don't need them to. That energy is different, stronger, calmer, unshakable. But letting go of validation is not easy. Because it's deeply rooted from a young age. You were rewarded for approval, praised for fitting in, corrected for standing out. So you learned to associate acceptance with safety and rejection with danger. But you are not that child anymore. You don't need to be liked to survive. You don't need approval to be okay. And once you truly realize that, something shifts inside you. You stop performing, you stop pretending, you stop chasing, and you start living, not for them, but for you. Now you've let go of something heavy. The need for control. The need for approval. But letting go is only half the journey. Because once you remove these distractions, you're left with something deeper. Yourself, your thoughts, your habits, your inner world. And this is where real mastery begins. Because it's not enough to ignore the outside world. If your inner world is still chaotic, you've let go of trying to control everything, of needing everyone's approval. But now you face something far more important, your own mind. Because even if the outside world becomes quiet, if your inner world is chaotic, you will still suffer. You can escape people, but you cannot escape your thoughts. They follow you into your mornings, into your nights, into your silence, and if left undisciplined, they take over. Negative thoughts, fearful assumptions, endless overthinking, not because something is wrong with you, but because the mind, by default, does not seek peace. It seeks survival. It scans for danger. It imagines worst-case scenarios. It replays mistakes. It is always asking, what could go wrong? And without awareness, you believe it. You treat every thought as truth, every fear as a warning, every doubt as reality. And that's where the problem begins. Because your thoughts are not facts. They are interpretations. They are mental events passing through your awareness. But you've been trained to identify with them. I am anxious. I am not good enough. I am going to fail. But the Stoic sees it differently. They don't say, I am anxious. They say, I am experiencing a thought of anxiety. Small shift, massive power. Because now, there is space. Space between you and your thoughts. And in that space, you gain control. Not control over what thoughts appear, but control over whether you follow them. This is the first discipline. Awareness. To observe your thoughts, without immediately reacting. When fear arises, you don't panic. You watch. When doubt appears, you don't believe it instantly. You question it when your mind starts racing. You don't chase every thought. You step back and simply notice, this is happening. That alone weakens its power. Because thoughts feed on attention. The more you engage them, the stronger they become. Because the mind cannot stay empty. If you remove negative focus, you must replace it with something stronger. Purpose, action, clarity. So instead of asking, what if something goes wrong? You ask, what can I do right now? You bring your focus back to the present moment, to what is in front of you. Because that, with one simple question, is this under my control? If yes, act. If no, let go. No debate, no hesitation, just clarity. This single habit can eliminate most of your stress. Because it cuts off worry at the source. Something happens. Someone says something. Something goes wrong. You feel triggered. Your old pattern. React immediately. Anger, frustration, defensiveness. But now, you pause. Even for a second. Because in that second, there is power. The power to choose. Instead of reacting, you respond. Calmly, deliberately, with control. This is the difference between being ruled by your emotions and mastering them. This one is uncomfortable, but powerful. The Stoics would intentionally put themselves in difficult situations. Cold showers, skipping meals, sleeping on hard surfaces, not to suffer, but to train resilience. Because when you choose discomfort, you become stronger. And when real hardship comes, you are ready. You don't panic, you don't break, because you've already faced discomfort. On your own terms. In modern life, this can be simple. Do something hard every day. Exercise. Because the real transformation begins when this video ends. Stay disciplined, stay aware, stay grounded, and most importantly, stay in control of what truly matters. Your mind.